So in this video, we're going to be talking about the siding. If you kind of notice, we didn't go with the typical vinyl siding. We went with what's called a cement fiber board, or Hardie board, as you will. It's kind of the common name now. And there's a couple reasons why we went with that. I'll get into that in a minute. But first of all, this was my very first time installing this stuff, and so I learned a lot. I'll try to pass on some of those tips and tricks. And by all means, if you're a professional, then critique my work and leave all the comments so then we can help other people out do the easiest, best job that they can. Let's get into the video. If you are afraid of heights, you don't like bees, or, well, you're anti-gun, I'd have to say skip this one and go to the next one on the honey-do list. I'm throwing up some house wrap, and that's, well, first of all, my house didn't even have any, and I do think that the benefits do outweigh the time and cost it does take to do it. Like I said, really the time to do this was minuscule compared to actually throwing up the siding. First tip for the site, well, first tip, wait a minute, no. The first tip was actually to pay the $35 delivery fee. That was well worth it. The second tip will be to download the manual from James Hardie. They go into great detail, including this trim right here, of how to do windows, the boxes, inside corners, outside, how to, do the siding itself. You're gonna see me jump back and forth between a couple different sides of the house. I did start on this side, and that's mostly because I didn't want to start on the front, because if I messed up, well, that's the side everybody's seen. So I started on this side and kind of worked my way around, and in reality finished on the front. Tool tip, an absolute must, are those green gecko pads. They actually help hold up the siding and they space it perfectly. I think they cost like 50 or 60 bucks. And paying that far outweighs sitting there and measuring the gap between every piece of siding and or doing chalk lines every other line. So just know offhand, you're going to be spending some money for some extra tools. And well, speaking of tools, these two are absolute must-haves. It's the Diablo Hardie board blade. It really is magical fairy dust how it cuts with only 4 teeth, but it does, and it does it beautifully. And then this is it's a Diablo tile blade saw. This will be for all of your round trim pieces, and it works great. Not nearly as expensive, but still is a must-have. Unless you are totally old school or, well, crazy, you are going to want a saw. I used a 7 1/4 inch circular saw. Some people throw that blade on a miter saw. It doesn't matter. But with a framing square, this thing got dead on 90-degree cuts, so it worked great for me. And take note right here of how much dust this thing creates. Yes, read the labels, wear a mask. And that's not just because of COVID. Yes, this may seem a little backwards, mostly because typically when you're starting a project like this, you would be taking off all of the siding first. But with the addition, things kind of went a little backwards. Regardless, you gotta love digging into projects and finding issues. Yep, that whole side was rotted out. So that was a fun little side project that added a couple hours and another 4x8 sheet of OSB. Couple key points here. That little thing is called a starter strip. It allows rain to run off the first layer of siding and not follow your house down to the foundation. It's just 1 1/4 inch ripped down from a full-length piece of siding. Also take note, I'm using a finish nailer, not the roofing nailer. If you try shooting that with a roofing nailer, it pretty much breaks into a bunch of pieces. There are a couple pages in the manual dedicated to what types of nails and what type of nail guns you can use. Yeah, I guess technically you can do it all by hand, but come on, why do that when you can shoot a gun, right? I totally lucked out in that prior to this project, I finished my roof, and it just so happens that I had a whole bunch of nails left over, and I already had a roofing nailer, so no new tools or supplies on that end of things. This project took many long nights and some very long days. Now, if I would have known how long it would have taken prior to it, I totally would have done it again because I love how it turned out. I'm going to slow the video down just for a second right here, and that's to show you why it took so long. First of all, part of my house is a 2-story house and the other part is a really high gable. So I used a neighbor's ladder, my dad's ladders, my ladder, stuck those at the high points and kind of had a little ladder going back and forth. It takes so long because you have to go put up the gecko pads, go back down, go cut the siding, take that back up and nail it, and then you're moving that along the siding as you're nailing. So in short, you know what, if you only have a 1-story house, hey, this might be a super easy, couple weekend project. But I would also love for anyone, if you've used maybe some scaffolding or ladder jacks, how did that turn out? I don't know. This ended up working for me. That's just kind of what I had. But I'd love to hear what the easier ways are to do this project. Since that's the last piece for this side of the house, I figure might as well go on up and show you guys the view when I'm done, and then we'll show you a couple still shots of the final finished project. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.